how's it going? I'm Ferry. Welcome to another episode of Artifact Creator Spaces. Hope you're all well on this chilly Friday evening. Well, for us UK peeps anyway, it's freezing. Did you guys have a good week? Were you productive? Did that voice inside your head get a bit too loud at some point and ruin all the vibes? Got a bit dark there, sorry about that. I just feel like ripping off that band-aid because today's conversation can be a little uncomfortable. I was saying this to Hondro earlier. I'm literally having imposter syndrome about doing a spaces on imposter syndrome. You literally can't make this up. Today, we'll be covering all the wonderful pleasantries that come with experiencing imposter syndrome and comparison, especially as a creative. We'll be talking about what imposter syndrome is, how you can recognize it. At some point, I would love to have you guys come up and share your stories about your personal experiences. And then together, we'll figure out different ways to combat it. I'd love for us to walk away from this space feeling much more empathetic and confident and equipped to deal with these toxic feelings, right? Am I right? Yeah, we all need help. So let's get started. Cass won't be joining us today as he's celebrating Rain's birthday. Happy birthday, Rain! But I do have two wonderful guest hosts today who'll be bringing all the warmth and light to this dark, dark conversation. Rogue and Anya, welcome, guys. Rogue is nowhere to be found. Interesting. But Anya is here. Hi, Anya.
We'll hold it down until Rogue comes back. I just saw a message. He said he couldn't hear anything, so I think he'll come back in a second.
Okay, cool.
But I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I think it's really important to have these discussions and break it down, have a little bit of a, deep discussion and everything. And mental health is so important to highlight and get it out in the open, and these perspectives and the advice that we can give to one another is so helpful when we can reach outside of ourselves and learn something new about ourselves, but because of someone else's own personal life experiences. So really, really excited for today. Thank you.
1,000,000,000%. I told Anya earlier, I feel like I put this spaces together because I needed a free therapy session from you guys. So again, feel free to request and come give some advice, because I personally am not gonna lie, I have been struggling with this. I mean, working for Artifact is a bit bizarre as a meme maker, but I could really do with some advice. We also have Hondro up. Hondro is one of those people. I just found out that Anya is also similar. We go to Hondro for our therapy sessions. So I definitely get mine through Fortnite with him. He's a great friend. Very, very lucky to have him. How you doing, Hondro? You good?
Doing well. Just enjoying this Friday and trying to get to the weekend. And yeah, I think it's conversations like this are they're tough to have, but they're important to have. And so hopefully I can shine some light on some of my experiences throughout my career and some of the help and guidance I had to kind of get out of that rut. So definitely kind of excited to have this conversation with people and just kind of highlight something that I think probably all of us have felt at some point in time in our lives, if we're not currently feeling it already. So I think it's one of those things where almost everyone seems to go through this, but not a lot of people really talk about it because I think everyone's worried that nobody else is going through it at the same time. So excited to have these conversations with everyone.
Let's go. Perfect. And we finally have Rogue up on stage. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys?
All good. I'm very, very excited to hear different perspectives because we have people from different areas. Like Anya, you've got your mum perspective, which I would really, really like to hear. Rogue, you're the artist. Hondro is the one that deals with all the fudders of artifacts. There's a lot to cover. But if you guys can retweet this repost or whatever they call it nowadays, this space, so we can get more people to come up, it will be helpful for them to hear it too. Okay, so let's begin. What is imposter syndrome anyway? So to summarize it real quick, it's self-doubt, second guessing yourself at any given opportunity, feeling like a fraud, doesn't matter what field you're in, despite your resume, your successes, your achievements, you just feel like you're not enough. It can have a massive impact on many different areas of your life, whether it's your relationships, your work, how you perform at work, and just a lot of things, unfortunately. But we're here to solve it. But first, I would love to hear you guys' experiences. Whoever wants to go first. Not going to put any pressure because I know it's not easy to talk about this. But Hondro, you go.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about it from my previous background perspective. I came from the tech industry, and so within that industry, there's a lot of very smart people. So it's very easy to encounter imposter syndrome, like amongst yourselves and colleagues and things like that. And so I think for me, I didn't work at kind of any of the big tech companies, you know, the Googles, Apples, Facebook. So I think like that alone, it just kind of like you almost second guess your abilities of like, well, why am I not at one of those companies? And like, you know, all the success I've achieved at this company, would it be the same if I was over there, or would I just be, you know, kind of a bottom of the barrel type candidate? And I think one of the things that was really important to me was finding mentors that weren't just within the company I worked for, but like outside in other tech fields and were highly respected. And like having the conversation with those people and realizing like these are industry experts that are being requested to talk on panels at all sorts of conventions and things like this, and like they feel the same way I do. And so I think like that in and of itself is one way that really kind of snapped me out of it, of like, okay, well, I guess I do belong. And everyone always kind of second guesses their ability, or, you know, why do I deserve to be where I'm at? And so I think talking to others about it is one of the keys I found, just because I realized I wasn't alone in this, you know, having this imposter syndrome. And so I was really fortunate to have like a strong stable of mentors that I still talk to a lot of them to this day, even after leaving that field, where, you know, they just kind of keep me grounded and, you know, allowed me to be more confident in my abilities and like grow as a professional. And, you know, it's kind of helped me a bunch in other areas of life where I realized that, you know, comparison is the thief of joy, they always say. So like, you know, I just got to keep focusing on myself and realize that like the talents that I've obtained and like the levels that I've achieved are due to my skills and what I've been able to accomplish. And, you know, I can't say, you know, look at things and just be like, well, if somebody else was kind of, you know, competing against me in this, like, would I still come out on top? Because it's, you know, like I am where I am. And so I the more you compare yourselves to like these what if scenarios, like you're going to just start spiraling. So just kind of focus on what you can control and realize that you are where you are for a reason. So
Absolutely. Hondro, do you feel like it comes to attack you nowadays as well, or have you got it under control?
I mean, no, I don't think you ever have it under control. Like I think you learn coping mechanisms, and you don't, at least for me, I don't spiral as much. But I mean, there's so many different areas where it can pop up. You know, like I'm also a parent, so it's like there's always that, you know, imposter syndrome as a parent, where you're just like, am I being the best parent I can be? Like, you know, am I the right role model, mentor, father figure to, you know, my kids? And so like it's this thing that like always pops up, but it's like you just need to learn kind of these different coping mechanisms to snap yourself out of it. And really, I mean, just talking with people helps. You know, I talked to my wife about it. read books about it and things like that. And so like it's one of those areas where it's always going to be there. You're just going to have to find a way to kind of adapt with it and learn different strategies to kind of get around it.
Yeah, billion%. Talking to people about it is a massive, massive thing. But also, it's not just hearing advice and hearing their perspectives about what you're going through, but also hearing yourself say things out loud, and sometimes recognizing that is so silly. Like, why am I not good enough? Why don't I deserve this?
For
right?
Sure. And like I think like for me personally, like it's weird because like I kind of got to where I am, right now because of social media, but it's like I feel like social media has made it almost so much worse for everyone, because it's like you see this little like blurb that's like this perfect scenario that this person has curated to post online, and it's like you see enough of that you just kind of think that's the norm when people are like showing you just like one little step or like the end result versus like the entire process that went through to get there, or the full truth behind everything. So for me, it's also just like when I'm not focusing on like doing it for professional reasons, like answering questions, helping people out, this, that, or the other, I almost need to like personally just stay away from social media, because it just makes it so much worse for me. So like I just need to kind of distance myself so I can not have this imposter syndrome just constantly nagging at me.
Oh, yeah, social media, that topic, definitely had to get away from it for a while when my work was all over the place and I had no idea what I was doing with myself, and seeing my peers just leveling up and comparing, non-stop comparing, and seeing them like have real jobs with decent salaries and getting to go on all sorts of holidays and having crazy cars and whatnot, and dogs. That's my biggest trigger. But now I'm like, I really could not care less. Like, I understand my journey and I understand what I need for myself. And yeah, sometimes taking a step away from it and being in touch with yourself and figuring stuff out, and then being able to come back into it and seeing it with a completely different view is so empowering. It feels so good to know that you're under control of your mind and your body and everything. So yep, definitely recommend that if you are comparing yourself to other people, sometimes just step away. Anya, what about you? Have you experienced imposter syndrome before?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I empathize a lot with the parental side as well, as the professional side. I think that it's a daily thing for me. And, I've confided in Hondro, but I've also have like, had issues with just maybe getting sucked into social media and like feeling the weight of like I'm not doing enough, like I'm not I'm not giving enough support to people, like and sometimes I have to step back and recognize that there are a whole lot of other things and areas in my life that I need to be giving my energy and time and attention to. Thank you, baby. And as we go, and so I think that through that, it's instead of falling into the trap of you aren't matching up with this, version of what this version of yourself that you're almost competing with. It's more of finding a balance, a place of peace, and a place of like, I can do this. This is within my realm. I'm able to accomplish these particular standards and these particular goals that I've set for myself, and I don't need to be racing against myself. I don't need to be pulling weight that was never meant for me to pull. And so, with that, I think it applies really, both for my 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 mom's side and for my professional life as well. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I am.
What do you think are some of the reasons that imposter syndrome has taken over or like affected you in life? Anya, hello.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I completely missed your question. It must have like completely cut out because it was totally silent for me.
Maybe try stepping down and then come back up, because you're quite delayed for me as well. I don't know if anybody else can hear you, but I'll come back to you later. I'm going to pass it over to Rogue. Rogue, you are a creative. I would love to hear your perspective and your experiences.
Sorry. Yeah, I kind of encounter that a lot. I'm sure a lot of people in the audience can as well. When you're an artist, it's like one of the main things that we kind of feel. I think every artist here is hit with imposter syndrome. We spend a lot of time kind of putting ourselves out there, our work out there, into the public eye. And there's a lot of that as well. And you can't help but sometimes feel like you're in just like a crowd of content, and you're trying to stand out from it. And there's all these brilliant artists around you, and you're just kind of like, why me over something like this, or even how me, compared to something like this. But there's a lot of different ways you can cope with that. It's totally unjustified. Everyone has kind of a, like a right to be here. It's the main thing is to make friends that are in the similar industry, similar position. If there's artists and work out there that kind of intimidates you, and let's be honest, we've all seen, someone's work that's just so sick, so amazing, and it intimidates you because you realize that, hey, I have no idea how you could make that. Make friends with the artists that intimidate you as well. Get to know them, get to know their workflow. Kind of humanizes the other person as well, that you're kind of looking up to so much and blowing up into this unrealistic version. I'm sure, the people that you look at like that don't want to be viewed as some type of, super figure either. Everyone kind of deals with that as well. So yeah, that's kind of my way of dealing with it. Is I mingle with people, I get to know them. It kind of takes that uncertainty, that stigma away. Yeah, you just kind of get to know things. I don't know, I'm kind of rambling there at the end.
No, I love that. I think it's so important to also, as you said, get to know artists, because you're looking up to them so much. And we were talking about this earlier. I'm going to go off on a tangent, but we were talking about how imposter syndrome can cause burnout and procrastination because of perfectionism or fear of failure and all of that stuff, all of those good stuff. And then you end up becoming quite stagnant and not doing anything, and then you're just observing, and your taste for art and creativity zooms up into the sky, and your skills stay where they are. So then when you go to attempt to do something, your skills are not there, and you don't have the outcome that you were hoping for, and that really, really hurts. So do you have any advice or anything like that? Yes, very, very frustrating. I know very, very well. But do you have any tips or any advice on that?
Well, yeah, there have been a lot of times where I'll sit down and, I'm super motivated. It's especially on the weekend, and that time is rolling around for me again. You sit down in an afternoon, you have the whole day ahead of you, and nothing is just working out. You just, you have all these brilliant ideas, and it's just your skills just don't translate to it yet. But seek help from people. Even maybe take a break and plan it out a little bit better what you're trying to do. I've recently, started planning a lot more, and I know it seems like very simple advice, but it goes a long way. Is get a whiteboard, draw your design out and a rough idea of what you're trying to create. Interact with other people, run your ideas by them. Get feedback, get comfortable with the fact that the first version of what you create might not be, the final version. You have to be open to maybe going back and starting from scratch even. If you want to make something great, it's going to kind of take time. So yeah, just seek feedback, things like that.
Yeah, I agree with feedback. Feedback is very, very important. It's just good to get a different perspective. I also see that we have quite a lot of creatives in the audience. Somebody very, very important that I'm intrigued of learning from is Yarlin. Yarlin, I don't know if you're too busy to come up, but I would actually love to hear, because we see you as this invincible, really talented scientist. So if you can come up, I would love that. Johnny's coming up. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We have Alts in here. Oh my god, Alts, haven't seen you in 1,000 years, Mr. Will. Do you want to come up as well? Yeah, would love to hear from you guys. Hi
Barry's
Johnny,
looking
how you
for all
doing?
of your weaknesses so she can exploit you in her next meme.
Oh my god,
She's got a list.
no,
She's
you
got
two
her
are
shit
just
list
my
ready.
Oh dear. Definitely not, guys. Don't be scared. Johnny, hi.
Hey, what's going on? How are you? Yeah,
We're
it's
all very good.
interesting, right? It's
You've
like
gone robot
being
for a bit.
yeah, when you're creative and or just in general just trying to do things that you see other people doing, or you're trying to do something new. It's an interesting feeling of not knowing kind of where to go and trying to figure out exactly how you're going to get there. And I think what Handra says is like surrounding yourself with mentors or people that have been there before, or like just not being afraid to seek advice or ask questions, and to kind of surround yourself with the people you want to become at the end of the day. A lot of the things that's happened to me in the last couple of years, like if I told myself 3 years ago what was going to be happening right now, I would have told you I was drinking or something like that, or it would never actually happen. So, but it's also just not being afraid of like chasing those thoughts and not backing down from them in a way, and kind of like facing it head on. It gets really nerve wracking because especially as a creator and an artist, you're putting your heart and your soul out for everyone to judge, right? Because every single time you're posting, you're getting likes and comments and everything like that, and there's a real kind of self put pressure on you in a way to deliver. And I think focusing mainly for me is just focusing on knowing that like I'm doing something that I actually love, and whatever the result is for the every other person that sees it or views it, judges it, it's something that I was happy with at the end of the day. So it's pretty crazy. I mean, going from just a designer to being a creative director of a very large company, that was even extremely hard for me to like wrap my head around. And it's a day to day like struggle in a way. Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I bringing enough to the table? Am I doing this, that, and the other? And I don't know. It's just really just focusing on the day to day and not getting overwhelmed with like the overall picture. But yeah, it's yeah, just focus on what you love, just chase what you're doing, and then everything will work out at the end. But yeah, it's really just kind of keeping your head level and not thinking too far ahead, not thinking about the future too much, and really just living in the moment.
Johnny, I love that you said you want to design things because you're passionate about it. That is something that I learned quite recently, is that it's kind of different, but it's the same. I always want to make the people around me proud, and that is a great goal to have, 100%. Like my mom, my sister, you obviously over there, like my main people, I just wanted them to look at me and think, okay, she's fine, she's got this. But what I did realize is I need to make myself proud. I really, really need to focus on what makes me feel good at the end of it, because if those people cared about me, then, which they do, then they're going to be happy regardless, because I'm happy. So yeah, that's definitely something that I want everybody to have a little, like a deeper think about, and implement it into their lives as well. Yobzi, you are up on stage, sir. How you doing? How was your game?
Game's great, but first of all, definitely proud of you.
Ah.
But yeah, this imposter syndrome thing's actually quite close to my heart kind of topic, because as like an artist growing up, or like someone who used to like really love drawing, one thing I've always struggled with to this day, I still can't do it, is I can't like imagine something and then draw it, or like I don't know how to explain it, but I can't ideate things and bring them to life on pen and paper via my own skills.
Bro, me too.
I've just never been able to do it. I can imagine things, but I just can't translate them onto paper, at least not the way I learned how to draw, by just like copying Dragon Ball Z or copying anime and copying these things. And I'm really, really, really good at like copying things, like without tracing, but I can just like look at something and draw it really, really well. But and then some would say that, artists that still life painters or still life sketchers are exactly the same. That just because they're not copying from an existing image, it doesn't mean that they're not like copying in a sense. But I've struggled with that, especially doing like custom clothing and custom bags and everything like that, because again, the customer always is interested in a theme. I don't know, Bugs Bunny, Sonic, whatever it might be. I'm always still painting somebody else's work, even though I might be doing it like to a high level. And anytime I show friends or I show my family, I'm like, oh, look what I just did. I'm really proud of it. And then everyone's throwing me praise, but there's still something inside me that's like, I know I did this, but I didn't do this, and it's a really, really tough battle. But at the same time, like, you just have to remind yourself when you're struggling with these things, is that like at least you have some form of skill that you've learned to be able to implement these things to make someone like you paint someone's trainers and they're super ecstatic about it. It might not be something that's like fully original, but they're super happy that they've received something that's like close to their heart or whatever it might be, and it was through your skills that was made possible. And then the other thing is like with the like sort of feeling like you're not meant to belong or something like that. I always like try and remind people and remind myself that we kind of like judge ourselves purely based on like the skill set that's required for that job. And it's not always that one thing. Like, you don't have that job or you're not in your position purely because of that like one skill that you have. Especially with like almost every job that you apply for, the team in the back, whether they say it or not, they've already got in their mind that they're going to train you for the job, so you don't even necessarily have to have like the exact skill required. But what you have got is you've been chosen over however many other applicants, is like tenacity, like you've got like the charm, you've got a way of speaking, and maybe you're not the best at like if you're doing like a coding thing, you might not be the best coder in the world, but you may have spent your time in parts of your life building on like communication skills, relationship skills, things like that are still more very, very valuable. But we discount those things because we kind of like bring a direct comparison to just the skills that are necessary for the job, when it's you're a whole package, and you were chosen for a reason to be wherever you are, and if you're there for a reason. So just like always remember that, and never like put yourself down for it, and keep it rocking. And we're all here for a reason. So yeah, man, just gotta keep remembering it, and then it's just push to be better every day, and that's it.
Let's go. It's actually crazy you say this, because I recently came across a little bit of an obstacle with my job. Beb, my other therapist, said the most beautiful thing. This is hypothetically speaking, but he said, trust over skill. If I trust you, I will fund you. You don't even need to have the skills yet. if I trust you to learn it. And that like got me in the feels. And then, yeah, I was like, okay, I got this. Whatever you want, I can do it. But yeah, just talk to people, okay? Get therapists, free ones everywhere in this community. Don't worry about it. Alt, how you doing? Welcome.
What's good, fam? Quick question: how many therapists do you have, Ray?
Oh my god, not enough, to be honest.
She needs a team.
She needs a team.
Definitely. You used to be one of them, but I don't know where you went.
I thought you fired me.
Oh yeah, we had that thing where you did that thing. But I'm kind of in need again, so if you're free,
Why don't you be my therapist?
I could use a
turn
hand.
it on its head. You could be my therapist.
Ooh, I don't think you need one. You got it down. You got it covered.
No, I was listening to you guys just kind of talk about imposter syndrome and stuff, and obviously as an artist or creator of any shape or form or fashion, you're going to struggle with that, I think, especially in this modern world. I think because we're so tapped in through technology to just amazing art all over the world, and as opposed to imagine if you were a couple hundred years ago, it's like, yeah, you made this dope painting, and it's like there really probably wasn't a whole lot of competition in your local area. You know what I mean? But now it's like you're just blasted with it, and the technology changes so fast, and techniques and things. So it's like, man, it can be very, very challenging. But I wanted to share like a little story that I had. Like those of you know, my background was filmmaking, and as a filmmaker, I used to also like just dabble with acting and the process, and just try to like get into that frame of mind to kind of better understand it. But I took this like acting workshop, and it was like this really cool thing where it was like it's all intensive thing for like 4 days, and you're talking like 12-15 hour days, and you just like get with this group of people, and you kind of really dive into your character and dissect it, and you get it was really, really about just like finding a way to become super vulnerable and allowing yourself to just like get in this creative space without judging yourself and stuff. But one of the really interesting things is like you grow really close with these people and your character and yourself throughout the process. And then the last day, one of the things they did was, and there was like 30 people in this class, and they took us one by one, and we had to sit in front of the class like in a circle, and everyone just like spent a few minutes just paying you compliments. And I thought it was so fascinating at how much mentally I just had to sit there and take it. It was the worst thing because it's like I'm just so used to like discounting everything I do, and I'm sure you can all relate to that. And it's like they're like, oh, I really loved you this, and you did this, and you're just like, no, that's bullshit. You're lying. You're just saying that to in front of everybody else. And it was so strange that I thought, okay, no, I'm just like my initial instinct is just to deny any sort of compliment about the things that I do. And then after, so we did that for a while. We each did that. And then they put us in this semicircle or another circle, but it was like one row on the inside and one row on the outside. And you had to sit for like 2 minutes. And you had to basically, whoever's in front of you, you tell them for like 2 minutes, you just tell them all the great things that you like that they did for the past 4 days. And then you flip it and they tell you, and then you just move through the circle and you basically kind of do a one-on-one with everybody. And then that was actually when it kind of sparked for me, where it's like, okay, we're not a big group. They're not just throwing out compliments. They're telling me specific things that I know that they didn't just make up. Right. So I'm like, okay, they actually do mean these compliments. And it was just so interesting to see the way that we view ourselves versus the way that other people view us. We are way harsher on ourselves. And I just thought it was it just really eye-opening for me to try not to be so critical on myself, as a creator. And just to know that everyone else, it doesn't matter how successful somebody appears, like they're probably struggling with the same shit that you are, of feeling like an imposter. And also it just kind of comes in waves too. Like as you grow as a creator, an artist, or whatever it is that you're into, it's kind of like steps, right? It's like you feel like you've conquered the world, and you wait, oh, there's another step. Let me go up to the next step. And you're like, oh my God, I don't know anything on this step. Right. And then you work through and grow, and then you eventually make a next step, and it just keeps happening over and over and over. There's always room for improvement. But yeah, that was just my biggest takeaway, that I really had to be confronted with it that way to really truly realize that like we shouldn't be so harsh on ourselves. Like, because you just the fact that you're creating and sharing your vision or passion, whatever it is, with the world, you've already won kind of to that degree.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when you're a creator or just anyone in general, and you're trying to like, and you care about things, right? You're always trying to push yourself to a new medium, or trying to push yourself every single day, and you realize every single new stage, it's like you're a beginner at it, right? Or at least that's how you feel, and really the knowledge is like not there, right? It's like almost with this community, right? When the 3D files hit, I didn't know any 3D whatsoever, and then you start seeing 3D artists, and then you start, dabbling into a little bit. You call yourself a noob, this, that, and the other, and you kind of get down on yourself a little bit, and then the more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it, obviously you start becoming proficient in it. And then the next stage is like, well, and then I got to do this. And then you're all a beginner all over again. And it's like, when you really push yourself to grow, every single day, you're almost going to never grow out of it. So it's like, yeah, just focusing again, like what you love, and just focusing on the day that you're in, and just not being too harsh on yourself, and just to continue to grow. And it's always the journey that you got to love.
Beautifully said. Celebrate those achievements, guys. It's not easy. The fact that you even attempted it, it's so huge to some people that you really should celebrate those moments. Dre, Millie, hey, how you doing?
I'm grandtastic, family. How are you?
Very, very well. Do you have any experiences with imposter syndrome? I can't even imagine you being in that situation, but maybe you have.
Oh man, do I ever? I had I used to go live every Thursday at 6 for the majority of 2022, and had this community I built up from the session I called Love Line, and it was basically these type of conversations where we just were open and vulnerable, or I was open and vulnerable, and just inviting people up for them to have these type of discussions, and just tap into this energy. And this was one of the major topics that we had, was imposter syndrome, because I think anyone who has that creative energy within them, which is everyone, feels this some type of way in some form or fashion. It's something that they do or they want to do, or some goal that they want to accomplish, or they get right up on the heels of that goal and they question themselves and say, do I really deserve this? Can I really do this? Can I really execute at this level? Right. And similar to what Alts and Johnny just said, is always relearning. It's always taking a new step. So yeah, I think this is something that can rear its ugly head every now and again. But I also look at that now as the fuel for growth. Whenever I get that feeling in my stomach that kicks up that anxiety or those butterflies, I say to myself that I'm on the steps of creating change. I'm stepping into a new chapter in some way, some form. So I utilize that as the fuel to push on and keep going. And it took a while to get there, but that's where I'm at in my current stage in life. I've always had creative energy flowing through me, and I've channeled it in multiple ways, a multitude of ways. I had a music artist that I managed back in 2016, 2017, and we created a project, a mixtape that at that time it was my first time ever fully diving into something on that level. We're creating music from scrap, from nothing, from an idea. And we came out with an entire project. But the thing was, at that time in life, since it was my first time tapping into that form of creation, I didn't release the project because to me it was like, oh, it got to be more perfect, got to be more perfect. And mind you, I was like the executive producer of this project. I wasn't even the artist. I wasn't the one performing or rapping. I was the one behind the scenes selecting the instrumentals, helping with the writing. I was really doing my Diddy position, and that's what the Diddy position sounds crazy in 2024, but that's what I was aiming to do, and that's what I started doing, and that's what I always wanted to do when it came to music. But we created this project together, and it was pretty dope. But the imposter syndrome um, overshadowed the progress for me at that time, and we shelved it. Never came out with it. Never pushed it. Me and the artist stopped working together, and we all went our separate ways. And that's always a reminder for me to never allow that to happen to me again. To continuously push through whatever it is that I feel like is blocking me, because perfection is a lie. It never happens. You just have to create and put it out there. And as long as you are creating for yourself and not for the expectations of others, I think it takes away from that imposter syndrome energy. So these are just a couple of things that I've learned in my timeline. I'm proud of, yeah, I got you, man. I'm proud of where I'm at now and the progression I've made now. Um, you're welcome, bro. I will. One day maybe I'll drop the mixtape just out of nowhere on some other stuff. That'd be kind of fire. But you know what was wild? This is the point to the story. The mixtape that I created or helped create and I curated, I found all the instrumentals, right? Meaning we went through tons of producers from everywhere, finding the music that we wanted to have. One of the producers that I hand selected that I co-produced the majority of the project with was the producer. His name is Sal Daly. He actually produced and just won a Grammy for Beyonce's album. So my mind frame is always, damn, if I would have dropped this back in 2017, 2018, I would have been ahead of the curve with this Grammy winning producer of Beyonce's album. And if you know me, I always had these conversations about the one of the talents that I know I have is being able to discover or see gifted individuals and their trajectory. And he was one of the people that I saw. I'm like, yo, this man makes crazy music. I gotta have this on the album. And I allowed the fear and the imposter syndrome to get in the way of that progress. And who knows where it could have took everyone involved if I would have, George Bush the button. But, it's all a process of learning. And that's what I figured out from that experience. So hopefully someone can take something from that story that I just shared. So yeah, that's me.
Dre, you kill me. You just did this whole speech so beautiful, so powerful, and then you drop that joke, and then it just takes you out of you like, whoa, what the hell just happened? I always appreciate it so much. I love it when you come up. That is so true. Everything you said, so true. I think normalizing failure is something that we really need to start doing more often as humans, because it's just bound to happen. But I was just wondering, do you guys think social media is a massive culprit for like perfectionism and just having imposter syndrome in the first place?
Yo, what's good, everybody? I'm gonna have to talk on this because I usually don't get to come on to these artifact creators because it's on like Fridays and I'm usually so busy. So I was gonna say, like, I have imposter syndrome because I'm never on these spaces and it's so hard to speak with like the creators, and I feel like I have to be here. So definitely social media plays a role where you want to be perfect, you want to show your life is amazing, and like you're talking to all these wonderful people all the time, but like it's not gonna happen like this. So it's okay to like see where there's a problem or like what's going on around you and use that as your advantage, because that could be your biggest strength whenever you find out what's keeping you back from moving forward in like a project.
Absolutely. Secretly, I was just actually going to ask you, have you ever been in a situation where you've experienced imposter syndrome?
Every single day, I feel like we have imposter syndrome.
Let's go, baby. This is going to become a gang soon.
But like you said, like some people feel like they have a hat, or they feel like there's somebody that maybe they're not, and they play it. In this space, you never know who's like behind the account. It could be a hacker. Who knows? It could be some troll. It could be like a reply guy, and like some people are all about it. So sometimes you gotta just wake up with a smile on your face and hope like everybody's working to make this place a better place. Like I picked up one of Rogue's pieces this morning, and just being able to be like one of the first to mint it, I think was like something I'm happy about. Like I haven't minted something in a while. I haven't collected something. And then he dropped something on me. He didn't even tell me that if I mint, I'll get something else. So I don't know if he wants to tell people what he's gonna. Basically, if you're a clone, collect Rogue's pieces, guys. That's what the alpha is.
No, don't.
But maybe it's just for like limited time. So that's alpha for a limited time. I don't know.
It's just
Imposter
something
syndrome.
nice I like to do for someone who collects my work and they happen to be part of that clone fam.
You gotta pin it to the top, bro. Show your art, dude. Be happy about
Yeah,
what you're
no,
releasing into the space.
let's move on from the shameless shill, but we'll I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate it. And yeah, for Clone Fam, there's usually a little special surprise in there for everyone.
That was adorable, I have to say. We finally managed to, I think it was the whole gang conversation, maybe it enticed him, but Yarlin eventually decided to come up on Spaces. What's going on? How are you
What
doing?
up? What up? Yeah, sorry, I was finalizing my research plan for next week. We're gonna be conducting a ton of research, so yeah, I had to like hold out just a little bit before jumping on. But
The scientist strikes again.
I don't know about all that, but no, yeah, like on the social media topic, it's like, yeah, like I feel it may contribute to some people's imposter syndrome, just mostly because when we're scrolling through like everything that's happening, it's really just like a complete like aggregation of everybody's best moment at that particular moment in time. And that's just like fed to us as like the constant norm of what we see to be every day as normal, when in reality, like each of those moments probably took months or if not years to kind of like, get to that point. And then as people are consuming it over and over, they're just like, dude, everybody's like amazing. Why do I suck at everything? But then they don't really take into account like the time span that it takes to get to that point. So I mean, in my experience, like I've just noticed like creators are generally like so focused on like what's next, and it's usually really like often very easy to not realize and appreciate all the things that they have done to get to the point that where they are. So like all the steps, all the sacrifices, all the things that they had to like do in order to get to their position, it's just like gone for that one. Sometimes it's good to just take a step back and just realize like, done a ton of stuff to get to where you are. It's like if you're in a particular position, it's not because you just magically were given a spot in that position. You most likely earned your way to that spot, like by dedication, time, skill building, like everything to get there. So, um, yeah, it's like one of the things, yeah, just noticed like it's often very common in a lot of people who dare to go and like dream beyond or go beyond the boundaries or limits that they see for themselves because they're always chasing, you know, how do they become better? How do they become better? So when you're always in like this area of like I'm trying to advance myself and be better and get good at certain skills that I currently don't have while also seeing people who have those skills, it's very easy for people to, I guess, say they're just not good enough, where it's like it's really about like the journey and how you continue it to get to where you want to go. The fact that you're even taking the journey in itself is already like you're like ahead of the curve on things. It's like you can't do anything without action. Like you could sit there and just be like, I wish I could be this super dope producer, or hell, I wish I could make the super dope render. And you can wish all you want, and it's not going to happen if you don't take action. So the fact that you're taking action is already,
This space.
yeah.
You got it in this space. You could wake up and be an astronaut if you really wanted to be. Like, if you're a 3D artist, you could be freaking a DJ in space. Like, you really just got to put in the work in the end of the day. And surrounding yourself with people that are going to make you better, like this space does, Artifact, create the creator space. You have all these connections that you would have never had before, maybe. And just every day, if you just network, you'll see what you could progress into this space. Like you might speak to a 3D artist or architect and then build freaking Rome in the next week. But it's not going to happen overnight, but the tools that are being built right now might succeed and speed the process. So just be aware of like who you're speaking to, and you never know, they might be the next Grammy Award winner for Beyonce. That's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, a few things that I've like noticed too, just along like my professional career, it's like imposter syndrome is not exclusive to people who are just starting out, who are like brand new to something. It's like I've seen people with imposter syndrome at the VP level, at the C level, and I've talked to them, and it's not as uncommon. or it's much more common than what people expect it to or anticipate it to be. Um, so yeah, like as now that I'm doing more like on like the art direction, more on like the research side of things, like at a director level at a company, like some things I tried to do is be very mindful of that. So I try to create like an environment of positivity and growth for people and teams I work with. You know, make sure that everyone feels like comfortable and included in everything that we do. Um, and also like really just trust individuals to do their best at what they do best. Like sometimes you go into a situation where it's like, you know, you're working on something and, you know, someone may have this particular set of skills that they were hired specifically to do, but then you have like a side seat, you know, designer or a side seat this, which really it's like maybe not their expertise, but it's like opinions I think are, everyone has them, type of thing, which I think sometimes also contributes to people feeling maybe a little bit lesser, where it's like someone who spent all of this time to come up with an idea and it's really quick to just be like, yeah, that kind of sucks, and it's like, but without really hearing out their whole rationale. So stuff like that I think is just really good to be mindful of. It's just like, if you feel imposter syndrome, then there's probably many others that do, and just generating like an environment of positivity will help with that. And one thing I really don't do is like, and you'll notice if like you've worked with me, it's like I don't subscribe to the boss hierarchy construct at all whatsoever. You probably never hear me say that. Like, I do not have a boss. I do, and I say the same thing to everybody that works with me. It's like, you're working with me, not for me. It's kind of one of those things where it's like it's a choice either way. In every job that we do, it's a choice for you to work at the company that you are at or the people that you're working with more than anything else on that. So it's like, just also know your worth in that sense. It's like, it's a mutual symbiotic beneficial relationship. It's not just one or the other.
I love how you touched on that. It actually brings me to a good point. I'm during this whole discussion, I've been posting some very awesome information for anybody. But one of the things that kind of touches into what you're speaking about is that there's a cognitive behavioral therapy technique called worst, best, or average. And the way that you work, basically, the way that it works is that you will make a list of all the traits that a non-imposter artist or mom or what, insert profession here, basically, that they would have. So you'll give an example of some of the traits. What are the traits that you feel like that particular position that you have, like as an artist, as a digital creator, as whatever it might be, and which is also kind of giving you like some goal setting, right? And then you will rate yourself from 0 to 100 on all these traits 3 times, at your worst, at your best, and on average. And honestly, this helps give a lot of clarity. You will be able to see what, your definition of success is, and you'll be able to figure out exactly where you are in your imposter syndrome feelings. Is this just you being mean to yourself, or is there genuinely stuff that you could stand to improve upon? And the third thing is that more often than not, your average is going to be a whole lot better than you give yourself credit for. And I think that's really helpful, not only in a work setting, but in a family setting, in a relationship setting, in, your something that you find passion for. It's very helpful because I think sometimes we'll get in our own heads and we'll beat ourselves up about it. And so it's good to bring your perspective and bring it down on paper for sometimes as well.
Sometimes we set goals for ourselves and then we overachieve them also, and like we never expect us to hit that goal. But don't be afraid to overpass, like, or however you want to say it, your surroundings. Like, it's going to happen. You might not feel like 100 one day, but tomorrow or the next week you'll feel like 1,000. So, how they say in, what's that? It's levels over 9,000. That's what I'm trying to say, basically. Don't push the limits, guys.
I love it. Another thing I like to do to kind of hype myself up Does anybody give themselves pep talks? Does anybody talk to themselves, or am I the only one?
You're not the
I
only
spoke
one.
to somebody. Yeah, I heard people like before they go to sleep, they speak to become more confident. You know,
Yeah,
and that's like
yeah.
speaking what you
Just
want
give
to speak.
yourself a pep talk. I mean, like I like to tell myself, like, why not, right? I mean, why don't you have a right to be here? Why I mean, think about it really. Like, why don't you? Did you do something wrong? Like, did you kill somebody? Why wouldn't you have a right to, to be here? Didn't you work on that? Didn't you work on that piece very hard? Why don't you have a right to be proud of it? The consider that. Consider the effort that you put into something, and then if you still think that you don't deserve to be proud of it after you consider the effort you put into it, then maybe you didn't put enough. But yeah, consider that.
Food for thought.
Yeah, I think one
Andre.
of the quotes that always stuck out to me was there's somebody less qualified than you achieving everything you want to achieve because they just did it. And so I think to me imposter syndrome is one of those things where like it's we're talking about how it's this negative thing, right? But I think it can also be this positive where it's you can recognize that you feel that you don't necessarily deserve to be in the place you are, but if you use it in the right way, you can use it as a motivator to keep learning and growing and doing all the stuff to help you feel like you belong. And so I think just recognizing it, but then using that as a positive way to keep going and keep growing and just doing things little by little until eventually you're going to look at yourself and be like, okay, I do deserve to be where I am now, and now I want so much more. And you can just keep growing that way. Whereas, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that don't have imposter syndrome ever and are just, I think I'm the greatest thing ever. But to me, if I ever hit that level about myself, I would almost, it's I just worry about being stagnant. So if I ever get to a point in my life where I don't have imposter syndrome, I'm almost going to be worried just because it's wait, am I doing everything I can be doing? If I feel 100% comfortable right now, am I actually achieving my full potential? So to me, it's also something that can be very positive where, you almost want that discomfort because it helps you grow.
That is probably my favorite thing I've heard tonight. Yep, that was great. We also have Dutchie up on stage. Hello, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, fam? Yeah, I wanted to talk on this topic because I lived out in Silicon Valley for about 5 years, and I can tell you it's a huge topic. I mean, I'd never heard the word before moving to the valley. I'd felt it a trillion times before as a creative, because obviously you just come up with stuff out of your head and you don't know if people like it. I think that's like, if you think about art, you create in a bubble, and then you present it to the world, and then whether that's just means a gallery or showing it to another observer, then you're basically asking them, which is completely subjective, to rate me. Right? And social media does go to that. And so I guess, funny enough, my story is about um, getting reached out to by a bunch of big tech companies, and one of them ended up being like Facebook/Instagram. And when I was going out for the interviews, I just could not believe that it was like real, because I was like self-taught, and I just didn't feel like I was fit in with everyone else. Like, there was like Harvard and Stanford and MIT, and people who've sold startups for millions of dollars, and like they were C-suite at some other crazy thing, or they invented this thing, and you're like, people have patents, and they're just like so, I would say, well equipped. And I came from like public school, I'm self-taught. I'm trying to figure things out. And even on the interview, towards the end, when I was getting through the rounds, I even said to someone, I was like, hey, I don't know. They told me, like, have you heard of imposter syndrome? And I was like, no, but I can totally feel that. I really thought it was a prank, to be honest. I really thought that, even though I'd seen the campus and everything, I thought it wasn't real. That's how much I had psyched myself out. And so going there was an experience. I did feel like black sheep a bit, but you know, I went through a lot of that imposter syndrome, like a lot, and so everyone's there trying to change the world and impact like millions of people. Everything you launch can go to millions of people, and so you go through waves of it where you feel like you can't contribute, and then all of a sudden you have like a boardroom full of people, and then people can't crack the code on something, and then you just say something and it works out, and then people will acknowledge that, and you're like, the issue is that a lot of times, someone else said it earlier, is like we don't give ourselves like even that win. Like a lot of times you'll skip past the compliment and then just double highlight the criticism, or when you go to post something online, like you'll get 100 nice things said to you, and then it'd be like that one troll comment that'd just throw you for like a week. And so I think that everyone, doesn't matter how accomplished. If anything, it almost feels like the higher up you go, the more imposter syndrome it is. And I make this joke about like Ali, that he can't miss. You know what I mean? Because like I just look at his stuff and I'm like, oh my god, this guy is like I don't know, this dude cannot miss, right? But the reality is that I think I forgot who was just saying it just now. Was talking about, or Alejandro was just saying that like if you feel like you can't miss, I will say this: life will show you that you can miss, because we're sort of all human, right? So it's this sort of like back and forth thing where you're like, you do belong. And like someone told me when I was there was like, the SEALs don't make mistakes, in reference to the Navy SEALs. Like if you're selected at this tier, it's because you belong here, right? It's meant to be. And then you have to convince yourself into it. But then if you psych yourself into this like permanent confidence, then life will show you. And that's kind of how you level your skills up too, right? If you feel like you always got the sharpest blade, that's probably not true, right? No pun intended on the blade there. But what the reality is I think that like you have to create for you, and then you like what makes you happy, and what you would like, because I know that sometimes like I'll create something in reference to 3D and Blender, and I'm also self-taught there. And you can see every flaw. You can see everything that you want to change or don't have the time for or wish you could do better. And then you put it out and maybe no one will notice it. And you're like, I don't like that part. So I've been told in the music side of things and other topics, like don't intro your art. Like don't go there and say, here this is, but here's all the things I don't like about it, and I'm just going to add this and change this, because for that person, it's the first time they're being introduced to your piece. So that's one. And two, like getting feedback is really cool. And a lot of the things that we see that are like just so larger than life, like we think of these celebrities like Beyonce, or, I don't know, whoever is like huge, Jay-Z, whoever you're thinking of, that's like these massive artists, Andy Warhol, whoever, they have massive teams. And sometimes everyone's putting their 100%, and it's turning out to be 1,000%. And then you're just like, how could I ever achieve that level? But the truth is, a lot of times when we combine forces, we can build something that's like larger than ourselves. And I think that that's the way we view like Artifact. And it's just a tiny last part. I connect with a lot of creators in 3D and AR and VR stuff, like prior to coming to Web3. And I knew I had connected with this guy. His name was Clegg, and he was making this thing called Artifact. Early 2020 or 2019 on LinkedIn, and then on Facebook. And I was like, man, this really connects with me. Like this streetwear, like tech, like this is dope. And yeah, man, to think that these guys used to send in um, roadmaps for Nike unsolicited. And you know what? Virgil Abloh also would send in designs to Nike, and they would refuse, and they would say sort of like, we don't take solicited designs. And then he went on to make their most successful collaboration ever. And Michael Jordan personally requested his shoes. So I would say that like dream big, like if you don't try, you're not going to get there. But also like learn from the people around you, because everyone is dope and you're going to get a piece, and big things are built together. But yeah, the imposter syndrome never stops. Um, now doesn't matter how big, how much you achieve, if anything it gets worse and worse and worse. So yeah, be around people who are therapeutic to you. And um, and, and a lot of people in the artifact community were very, you know, I was making renders, putting them out. People were like, you should join Artifact. Like you really need to get a clone. And then people kept saying, you can do it, man. You can do it. Like, keep pushing. And people were so supportive and stuff. So like, just be around people who inspire you. And you're just going to keep on leveling up. But there is no ceiling. Like you just keep leveling up, and then you keep getting imposter syndrome, and then you snap out of it, and you do some more. And I have a folder full of renders I never released because I got all the way to 99%, and then I get freaked out because of the views or the likes, or is it better than my last song or my last piece or whatever. But that's just part of being human. So, keep on.
That's the beauty of it though, no, right? Like we're creatives because it's the one thing that you can do forever, multiple lifetimes and never master. It's always a new journey. It's always something new, and it doesn't matter how far you keep going, you'll always be able to go further.
And I was I'm also really interested in like some really fascinated with like a lot of like Blender is my obsession now, and hard surface design. And I'm going through like traditional 3D artists, like YouTubes and advice and all stuff, and I see this like PDF or image of a quote that's like advice, and it came from a guy named Jarlin, and it was prior to Artifact. And I thought it was the greatest thing. I saved it on my computer. I'll send it to you later, but yeah, man, like the things that we can build together, and who we think we can become and who we end up becoming sometimes are worlds apart. But you cannot judge yourself based off of someone else's success. People are in different places, they have different point of views, they got different skill sets, they start at different levels. But it's your unique take, right? Like you look through a photo camera and it's your point of view on the same landscape, right? But the way you angle it might be different, or the way that you focus the lens or whatnot, right?
Absolutely. We've gone over the hour, and people have things to do, and I don't. I can be here forever. So I'm just gonna pass it over to Brongis, and then Anya, I believe she has some book recommendations and some TV show recommendations. Because why, Anya? Why do we need those?
Because humor gets us through life.
Absolutely. So, Brongis, welcome on stage.
Hello, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Brongi.
Yo, bro. I just
What
wanted
up?
to come up here and let's say bring my uh, perspective, because I always with drag we talked about art and renders a lot on Instagram, and he for sure is one of my biggest inspiration. And also, I mean, I wanted also to. I think was Jobs that posted maybe yesterday or a couple of days ago, that post about first and last render that we made with our clones. And with that post, of course, I retweeted and I posted my artworks. And with that, I could see all the improvements, all my story behind, and all the things that I made. I mean, in the past to achieve what I made. And I also wanted to say that it's not easy, but of course, as we said already on this stage, if you don't act, if you don't do anything, you won't do anything for sure. So my suggestion is always to try to make the first step and to see what's going on. I mean, maybe it's your cup of tea, maybe not, but if you don't do nothing, for sure you won't do nothing in your life. So I was completely far away from 3D art and I mean all this stuff. But if I never, bought the clone or joined this community, for sure, my 3D art would be, I mean, maybe in my closet. So I'm really happy that I joined this community, and I also have the opportunity to meet and to talk and to learn from really professionists and people that can inspire you, can make you level up, because if you see some render and you see something that you can do or you are not able to do in that moment, for sure you will start to study to see how you can achieve that goal, that can be, I don't know, lighting or things like that. And for sure, when you have people around you that are inspiring you, and of course, let's say better than you, of course you will level up for sure, because you will be you will want to achieve that goals, that people's, and so on. So I think that joining this fam was one of the best thing that I did so far, for sure. So just wanted to take my story a bit, so everyone can say, okay, maybe it's better to try and to see than stay seated at home and doing nothing. Just this. Thanks for having me.
We love having you, Brongis. Thank you so much. And your story is actually very, very interesting. How you pivoted from, I mean, you're still a doctor, but you went from that to doing 3D, and you're in a community with a bunch of 3D avatars. Like, it's just crazy. So thank you for being here with us. Anya, would you like to tell us a little bit about the books that you've recommended?
Yes, absolutely. So I did post them in the comments. I'll pin it to the top as well. And I curated a list of books for anybody who's interested, both nonfiction and fiction, for the fiction lovers, of course. So the top three, we've got Playing Doctor Part 2. Part 1 is also good if you really want to get deep into it. On Writing by Stephen King. The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And those three are great. I want to make a note really quickly that Stephen King is absolutely somebody that you should read about. He has really experienced some, creator mental blocks and, imposter syndrome things and so many different things. I reference him quite a bit because we've gone through struggles, mental health and, emotional health wise. And I always think back to, this, I'm sure he probably wrote about it as well, but there was an interview that he did and talked about how he had used cocaine, Xanax, Valium, NyQuil, beer, like he would smoke, he would, everything. And it ruined him like as a person, but he was getting so good at his content, like the books that he was writing and all of these stories. A lot of his best work came during this like very dark time in his life. And he talks about how what he did was, instead of holding himself up in a room by himself, looking at a desk with no window in front of him, is he completely 180'd, and he put his office space in like the middle of his living room or something, and so that he could have his children around him and his wife, and he had sunshine and everything, and he could still get really good in his creative space, but he wasn't destroying his sanity at the same time. So absolutely recommend. Really, really good. The other three books I have as well are the I went back to it. Is Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason, What My Bones Know by Stephanie Fu, and Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb, which is really good. I love that one. And then, of course, fiction, we have Blue Period, which is a manga. It's about the struggles and rewards of life, dedicated to art. It's also on Netflix, though I have not consumed it on Netflix, so totally up to you if you prefer to do it that way. The Picture of Dorian Gray, it's quite an old novel. It's by Oscar Wilde. There are 2 movies that were depicted from this particular book. 1945, it was up for many, many Oscars, so if you're keen on like older style movies, go for that one, because the 2009 version is it's okay. And then what we got, that's it for books. And then I'm not going to read all of the movies, but I did put a ton of comedy show recommendations. So if you are, in need of something to kind of pull yourself out of a funk or whatever it is, background noise, which I do quite a bit, like putting on something while I'm folding laundry or doing whatever it is. If I don't have Bad Take to listen to, I will listen to a comedy show or a murder podcast or whatever it might be. So totally put together a whole list of comedy shows that we enjoy. We were actually discussing this. It took up most of our chat when we were talking about before the space had started. So if you like comedy shows, absolutely recommend these. If you have seen any of these, you and I would be absolute best friends, because these are all shows that I have consumed, and they are fantastic. And if you're looking for good inspiration for something new to watch, it's really good to get your brain space into a different area. So highly recommend, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Research Queen, we appreciate you so much, Anya. Thank you for compiling that list for us. Also, Rose Jade came up to speak, but maybe she had to go. But she did post something in the comments, one of her pieces, and it's captioned, "I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but know precisely what I can achieve." And that is so beautiful. Banana Rap has also posted a video, which I haven't watched, but maybe you should consider it. And it's how to overcome imposter syndrome and stop feeling like a fraud. How to stop imposter syndrome before it stops you. You don't want it to stop you. So go watch that. What else do we have? Does anybody else have anything else that they want to say before we close it up?
I just wanted to say here, I guess it's maybe 2 pins back, or I just tweeted the quote I came across Jarlin about design principles and the way that he handles hard surface design, and so I just thought it was interesting that I came across it from non-Web3 people sharing it, sort of one of his posts and stuff like that as a direction to go. So I just looked it up real quick. But thanks so much for this space on imposter syndrome, because we all have it sometimes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I pinned it again to the top. Sorry I missed that one. That's really cool. Okay, I don't really have anything else. I just wanted to say a shout out to Hondro for being my one of my therapists, and for Beb for always being my therapist and having my back. Sorry to give you the ick again, and this time in public, but I really appreciate you. Okay, yeah, so I'm so grateful for all of you for sharing your vulnerabilities and sharing your stories to help each other, because that's basically what it's for in the end. Seems like we're not alone after all, and that feels good. I have to say, I feel very, very lucky for this amazing little support system we've created at Artifact. I don't care what anyone says, we are very, very strong. And I love you guys. So we've had spaces before on many, many different topics, but I wasn't sure if this was appropriate or even necessary. So I was very hesitant on doing it. But I personally have benefited so much from these conversations. Thank you so much, everyone. I really needed it. And yeah, I seriously recognize the importance of them now. So definitely we'll be doing more on these topics. If you have any suggestions, if there's anything you guys want us to talk about, please let me know. Like, DM me. Or if you want to co-host as well, I'm always down for it. So let's get talking. I don't really have anything else. Rogue, you want to make us laugh, but you've been slacking, my dude. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds to make us laugh until I find the music. And then we'll close it
Oh
up.
my God, no! Don't do this to me.
You said you're good under pressure. You said it yourself.
No, I didn't. I never said that.
You absolutely said that. You
So,
definitely said
He
that.
said
You've got
it.
two
He
So
so
witnesses
said it.
that
Penguin
both.
walks into a bar and he walks up to the bartender and he asks the bartender, "Have you seen my brother?" And the bartender turns around and he goes, "What does he look like?"
We're closing off. Goodbye, guys. We have to go.
That was really good.
Wah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
No, everybody come. Everybody has to say bye at the same time.
Bye.
1, 2, 3. Bye.
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 Yeet.